the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. With your hosts, Joe Bond and AJ Applegarth. Touchdown!
All right, welcome to the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. What's up, Albert? Always the first one here, man. We love seeing you. My co-host tonight, AJ Applegarth, as usual. What's going on, man?
It's a Wednesday. There is that. So
happy Halloween Eve, which is
All Hallows Eve.
So
happy your neighbor
Hallows
just
Eve
toilet
Eve?
papered your tree tonight. Night.
So
Evening.
want to try that one again?
I did see a funny thing on the Face Space about how you need to properly train your kids on how to TP the right way, because it is a dying art, apparently, according to this post that was out. And it's kind of funny. I enjoyed it for the 36 or so seconds that I read it. So, yeah, there's that.
Question: did you ever get TP'd as a kid?
Did I ever? Yeah.
Did you ever get TP'd growing up?
Our house did, yeah. But I also
absolutely.
My fair share of
both ways. Yeah, both ways for sure.
Plenty damage. I mean, and by damage, I mean not like hurtful damage. It was just
right.
Wow, yeah. You are living in a sea of white now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It felt like a rite of passage. It was like, man, my friends not like me. Like they're not TPing my house. Like it felt like it wasn't like you picked on when you got TP'd. It was like, oh, my friends like me.
Oh yeah. Well, and
it was like, oh, they're thinking about me.
It was like the pre-apocalyptic, way to be a, one of those apocalyptic hoarders for having all that TP in your house. It's like, oh well, I'm just saving up for Halloween. That's it. Nothing else bad's going to happen.
Sure. All right. So tonight we're going to be jumping into week 9 of the fantasy football season, getting you all ready for that with some of our usual start-sit rankings preview here, and then jumping into our observations, kind of trends that we're noticing, just good talking points. We'll talk about some of the recent news. Of course, while you're here, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave those comments, those reviews. We love to hear from you. And jump over to fantasysixpack.net/plans and become an all-access member. There's still time. The season is not over. Even if you're like 3-5, whatever, like, believe me, there's still time to come back. Your season is not over. Let us help you. We've got our award-winning rankings. I'm number 2 right now on the season. We've got all of our Discord, got all our premium Discord channels where you get access to all of us to ask all your personal league questions. If you think you're dead in the water and you don't want to try, we still got DFS and betting content. And like, believe me, you are going to make up your money if you tail some of these guys. It is all, I don't want to say easy money, but it's pretty damn close. So without further ado though, let's bring in our guest, Mr. Kyle Senra, a writer here at Fantasy Six Pack this year for the first time. And, he's been around with Going for Two. I see the hat there, represent. So good shout out there. And I think you're doing some other stuff, man. You're all over the place. So how's it going on tonight, man?
Oh, it's doing great. I know you and Jeff Lambert know each other well. So shout out to Jeff.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, we run the DC Scott Fishbowl live drafts together, man.
And again, none of us coordinated to wear Scott Fishbowl shirts tonight.
Nope.
I think it's just the natural wardrobe of people.
I mean,
in the industry anyway.
I have like 6 of these, so they're in the rotation a lot.
Yeah. Every day of the week, there's a shirt. So it feels like that for sure. But yeah, absolutely happy to be here. Thanks for letting me come on, Joe and AJ and Mike back there. You can't forget the producer extraordinaire.
Yes, behind the scenes voice of the Fantasy Six Pack Hour, Mr. Michael LaPlante.
All right, so
Just like, why?
I'm also trying to type a tweet at the same time. I got down here like 3 minutes before the show. I'm not prepped, so what else is new, right?
I will. Well, while you type that, then I will piggyback real quick off of the don't give up speech, and I will say that my one team is. I've been changing the name of it a lot this year for whatever reason, and right now it's currently my fantasy team sucks, and that is in our crab cake Maryland analyst experts league, whatever you want to call it. Hashtag suck it, Scott. You're not winning this year, no matter if you're in first right now. It will not happen. I don't know, whatever 37th time or whatever it is at this point.
Dude, by the way, did you see how close the points for and the points against is that league?
It's points for and points against. I have not looked at it, but I will right now.
Look at me and him. It is unbelievable.
0.1 points in your favor, and wow, literally a reversal. Both at 1,004.46 points against for him, 0.64 points for you. That is
I've never seen anything like that. Not 8 weeks into the season where you are literally off by decimals.
Yeah, that's
in the points for and points against, and we're first and second place. He beat me. My team just died that week. I don't know. I don't remember what happened, but it sucked. So
yeah.
But yeah,
well, it's after week 6, I changed my name to my fantasy team sucks, and I've rolled off 2 straight wins. So I don't know. Maybe it's a weird omen. So I'm not changing it again until I lose again, I guess, and we'll see what happens.
It's kind of how sports coaches go with their lineups, right? No, we won the game. We keep the lineup. I guess that's more of a hockey.
We're not changing a damn thing. Yeah. Whatever you drank this morning, whatever you ate this morning,
do it again.
Do it again.
We're playing on the road. We're not playing in the same building.
Yeah. What do you mean Walmart's out of those?
To this other city.
Everything bagel thins. Freaking go somewhere else and find them because you need to eat them. That's that kind of talk.
All right. So first up, we are going to touch on the Anthony Richardson getting benched. So I'll say my piece in a minute, but I want to get your all's take on this and just what the future looks like for Anthony Richardson, what the season looks like for the rest of the Colts. Anything you guys want to say about this, Kyle, we will let you go first.
It's funny because I think, can you enter Bryce Young into the same conversation? I mean, he's already been benched and brought back, so I guess he'll be starting the rest of the year. But I also think, it sounds like they're going with Flacco to try and make the playoffs. If Flacco suddenly starts losing, they fall out of playoff contention. I don't think it's unreasonable to think that we see Anthony Richardson again this year. So, are they hoping with both quarterbacks that some time away, not out there making mistakes, not taking hits? For Bryce Young, not throwing a bunch of interceptions. Still wasn't throwing touchdowns when he was out there, so may as well not keep him out there.
Yeah.
But just being away from the field, does that help their development? The old adage of, let these quarterbacks sit for some time, and these guys really didn't get that luxury. Richardson, in theory, got to sit last year, but he wasn't also practicing. So he didn't really get the true benefit of a red shirt season. You got almost the worst of both worlds, right? Because he got out there and got hurt, and that's part of the red shirt is to protect him getting injured, but then also didn't gain that experience because he got hurt so quickly in the year. So kind of almost a lost year as a rookie season. So, he still hasn't started a rookie season worth of games.
Yeah, well, it's pretty amazing too because he was in the games he played, and he was actually and he finished. He was really good last year. We have not seen anything even close to that this year. So I'm honestly not surprised, man. I'm not surprised one bit that they're benching him, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
His completion percentage was low, but it wasn't this low.
Oh, yeah. No. You're right. Yeah. It was 50. I want to say 59% last year. It was bad.
It was in the 50s. It was respectable. He was at least completing more than half his passes.
59.5. And he had,
I do remember looking it up specifically.
A little under 600 yards, only 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. And again, this is only 4 games. He's played 6 this year, and he's really not. I mean, he hasn't improved anywhere. I mean, obviously the yardage is improved and 1 more touchdown, but hey, guess what? You have 6 more interceptions in 2 more games and 2 more sacks. But the percentage is down to just under 45% now. I mean, I'll stop being box score, ball out here, but I mean, this is Joe Flacco has shown from last year with Cleveland in the short, small sample size that we got towards the end of the season, that he is elite. And, he's come back in this year and he's balled out again. But I have to feel like the age and the shine is going to wear off of Flacco at some point, because last year it kind of started to. Like, we saw this coming towards the end. And then Cleveland was out of it. So it was like, all right, well, now what? But yeah, I mean, the worst part about this is that Richardson came out in the post-game presser and was like, oh yeah, I tapped my helmet. I was tired.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Shut up. Don't tell anybody that. Like, you're gonna be an everlasting meme of history now for that, like, helmet tap and whatever.
Was he realizing his relevance in the NFL might be short-lived? So let's
exactly. He's like, well, and it's just like, is this like a Gators thing? Am I missing something from my like childhood fandom of the Gators, that now their quarterbacks that come into the league have to have some like symbol of their time in the NFL? Tebow had the head down knee thing, and now Richardson's is going to be a helmet tap. Is that what we're looking at here? I mean, Tebow's obviously had real meaning. This is just like, you're a bum. You're tired. I'm sorry that you can't run around for a play when you're a running quarterback. Yeah, I get it. You missed a couple games from injury, but this is why we drafted you at 4th overall, I think it was. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's bad. I haven't had a chance to like even breathe a word of my thoughts on this to a friend of mine who's a big Colts fan. So I'm very interested to get his take on this. But I think Flacco is a worthwhile start in leagues, especially if you've lost some guys to injury, or if you have some bye weeks coming up. There's some big buys, in the next few weeks that are going to hit. I think he's worth a flyer, and that's assuming he was dropped. Once Richardson came back, I held on to him in Scott Fish, actually, just because I have like a plethora of backup quarterbacks. I couldn't drop any of them though, because you never know. You never know.
Yeah, I finally threw the white flag last, I think it was last week in the fantasy 6-pack OG league, and I remember, dude, it was hard. It was really hard to press that drop button. I had 3 quarterbacks though, and I was like, I cannot hold on to 3 quarterbacks in this league. This is idiotic, right?
Yeah,
I was holding on to Anthony Richardson. I had Cousins, and I got Darnold. I'm starting Darnold every week now at this point, like until he shows he's not startable. He's not going to be Jalen Hurts. He's not going to be Josh Allen, Lamar. He doesn't have that upside, but he's been good and very, he's QB1 a lot. So I'm fine with it. It was like, I mean, Cousins hasn't been good except for when he plays Tampa, but I was like,
yeah,
I mean, I can't, like, Anthony Richardson was getting me like 8 points, 9 points a game. Like, no, this isn't going to happen. I'm out. Like, I just was like, you know what? I'm cutting bait. I'm out. I just don't want to deal with it anymore. I'm going to let him be somebody else's problem. Jonathan Presso picks him up, and I was like, oh, have fun with that. And
I
figured it's worth a shot. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
they call that a sabotage drop. Yeah. I hate this player so much. I hope someone else picks them up, and they could be their problem now.
What's even better? What's even better is he dropped Detroit's defense to pick him up, and Detroit's defense went off last week. So like, I was like, I asked him in the chat today. I was like, oh, how'd that Anthony Richardson pickup go for drop in Detroit? By the way, who went off? He's like, oh, how'd pass on Darius Slayton go? Because he sent me a crap trade. He wanted I forget who he wanted. He wanted Hunter Henry for Darius Slayton, and I'm like, I'd rather just keep Hunter Henry as a backup tight end at this point. Like, I've got Ferguson, who's been fine, but whatever. Like, I don't want Darius Slayton; he's not good. And I just responded back with like the meme of Chandler being like, "Oh, I don't care." Yeah. Like, that was it. Just dumb. Just funny. I'm out on him though. Like, when you can't complete 50% of your passes in the NFL, you should not be a starting quarterback. Probably shouldn't be a quarterback, in my opinion. I don't care if you have this massive rushing upside.
College quarterback.
Those guys just don't work. I'm sorry. It's not going to work.
This type of completion percentage we haven't seen since Tebow, as AJ brought up. So
right, and it's just like
that was fun for a bit. A lot of fantasy points, but it also
it's just doesn't make any sense. It's like an NFL franchise cannot run. They don't care about our fantasy teams. You know what I mean? And like, they're not going to keep
Flacco being in there will help our fantasy teams. Sorry, Joe.
Well, right. But you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to keep a guy out there because like, oh, he's got more fantasy upside than Joe. Like, they're not going to keep him around for that. You know, like, it's just dumb. I'm done. I'm out. Hopefully he can figure some things out on the bench. I know we got some comments in here. I'll get to those in a second before we start the sit portion here. Diontae Johnson getting traded to the Ravens. This one's interesting. You know, I don't necessarily know if it's a great move for his fantasy value if Andy Dalton stayed starting quarterback in Carolina. But I want to get your thoughts, AJ. What you got, man?
I like it. I think this is, it was probably bound to happen that Carolina was going to unload him anyways. And I'll be honest, I did the draft, the depth chart updates yesterday, and just went through and did all this stuff. And I did not see this information at all. I might have done it before the trade actually happened. But then it was like one of those things I looked late at night or something, and then I'm like, why? He's still wearing the Carolina jersey, but they hadn't updated his picture yet, obviously, but then it's like Baltimore. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I'm like, damn it, did I miss something else? But
I think what happened is they agreed to the trade before it got completed, because I think with Diontae hurt, he had to go through a physical first.
Yeah.
We got the news that it was completed, but it didn't, or that they had agreed, but I think it didn't get officially completed. So
I think that's what it was. Like, I caught it in the wormhole of this whole scenario, and I'm like, okay. And then I saw it today. I'm like, yeah. So this did happen. I didn't just dream this up, and it was this whole new thing that I just didn't miss. So I re-updated again today. Also missed the Stephon Diggs to the IR thing, which was news from yesterday. So that definitely came out after I had done my update. But I digress. So Diontae to Baltimore, I love this for him. I love it for Baltimore. It's still a run first team. It's gonna be a run first team. But they're gathering weapons here. And this offense is just hitting on all cylinders. You still got Zay Flowers there. He's going to be the number one. But now Baltimore's kind of in almost. They're like a tier below the 1A guys. But it works. I feel like they're moved up in that tier of being in a lower tier of 1 to 1A because we know it's run first. But you're not Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. You're not AJ Brown and Skinny Batman. I would have said you're not Kansas City with who is it? Nope, Skymore, no, injured. Rice, no, injured. Brant, no, injured. Miko Hardman, and Justin Watson 1A for FTW, but goddamn Chiefs just keep winning no matter what, so it doesn't matter who they put out there. Diontae is obviously talented. He's going back to a division he's familiar with. This will be very interesting for these Pittsburgh games, assuming he's healthy, obviously. And I like it. I like the trade. Rashad Bateman was a thing. It's like, hey, come get the Ravens' number one receiver. It's Rashad Bateman. And everyone's laughing until they're looking at it. They're like, well, shit, he kind of is their guy. So, anyway, that's my thoughts on it.
Feels like it's a great move for Baltimore from an NFL perspective.
Yes,
because now they don't have to target Rashad Bateman as much. This seems like a direct. I don't know if it was the sign from the sun where he dropped that open pass this past week against Cleveland, and they said, okay, no, we have to get another starter.
Time to trade.
But I agree with you, AJ, in that Flowers is still probably going to be the number one there. It seems like Diontae throughout his career, other than maybe he was a rookie, maybe his first couple of years when Antonio Brown was there, he seems like he's been the best separator on his team. He's that guy that can get open pretty quickly and just that's what kind of commands his big target share. Zay Flowers seems to be able to do that pretty well too. So suddenly this is the first time probably since Antonio Brown left Pittsburgh that Diontae's really had to contend with someone like that. Someone with a similar skill set to him, only this is a guy that has that rapport with Lamar. So it feels like it's going to be really tough for Diontae to supplant Flowers at all. He could probably easily get in front of Bateman. And I guess the real question is, who's the number two there? Is it Mark Andrews now that he seems to be bouncing back, or does Diontae come in and really stunt that for years?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't really know. I think Zay Flowers keeps his role. I think Bateman will eventually take a back seat to Diontae Johnson, but like we see a lot of these trades with receivers mid-season, I kind of want out. Like if I had Diontae Johnson, I'm getting rid of him. Like I'm going to trade him while somebody's be like, oh, he's going to the Ravens, a better team, but he's going to get Lamar. Like these wide receiver trades in the middle of the season hardly ever work. So I don't want any part of it. Maybe it'll work. Maybe I'm wrong, but odds are it just doesn't really hit for fantasy enough to matter. But yeah, great NFL trade. It puts them definitely in an even more elite category for offense. They now got to figure out how to fix this defense a little bit. It's still good, but it's not as good as it probably needs to be for the playoffs. But
speaking of a good defense, like this week against Denver, it feels like Deontay's unplayable. Like this week, if he even plays and is active.
Yeah, right.
Be the matchup you'd want him to first game with the Ravens go out.
No, I think this is an easy
thanks.
Let's get you healthy. Let's keep our game plan the way it is. And Denver's kind of, I guess you could say, up and coming. I mean, Bo Nix has been playing better since the beginning of the season, and Baltimore's defense, like you said, it is a problem right now, and we'll see.
Yeah. So we do have a couple questions. So Chad's over here asking us, I want you to touch on, I guess we lost AJ. So Kyle, you and me. I want to touch on the over under 2.5 fantasy points for Tank Dell on his own versus Sauce. Does the setup of no Diggs, no Nico make Schultz a priority streamer? Okay, so the first one is over under 2.5 fantasy points. I'd say Dell is going to do that. I don't know if they're going to shadow Tank Dell. Is he warranted shadow coverage?
He might be just because he's the only like he's a tier above everyone else as a receiver. But I mean, is like one thing? Are they just going to play him in the slot a lot? Sauce Gardner.
Really, and if they do, that's Michael Carter. Yeah. And that's the far better matchup.
Yeah.
But that's the far better matchup. I would say
for sure over
Tank Dell over 2.5 points. I get on board. I could get on board with. The
one league I have him in,
priority stream.
Start Dell. Actually, the way I'm going about it is I think I've got all the Texans receiver across at least one league starting somewhere. I've got one spot where it's Dell, one spot where it's Wood. So if anyone blows up at least somewhere, I'm going to be happy. I think that's how I've covered all the bases.
Yeah, and honestly, like the Jets secondary. Now I know they were injured a couple of games ago. Like I don't know if they've gotten some of their like safeties back and stuff, but I mean they've been beat up on a couple of games here lately. So it's not out of the question that this just like still works. I'm not banking on it though. Does the loss of those two receivers make Schultz a priority streamer? Absolutely. I don't see how not. Like just volume based at this point. Like he's got to get more. I talked about it in my usage article that he didn't see like a huge uptick in targets, but Diggs got hurt late in that game too. So like there wasn't a lot of time left to see like it really take effect on people's numbers and like really what it would do. But I would say Schultz is absolutely a priority streamer. In fact, I'm kind of surprised he's out there if he's out there in any leagues.
Well, and that's what I'm wondering. If he's available, is a guy like Mike Gesicki available? I might prefer to prioritize him. Even Jonnu Smith, now that Tua is back. So those are just a couple of guys where maybe I would prioritize, but it's tough to know who's available on each waiver wire to kind of say who's the priority.
Yeah, I definitely lean.
I guess with Gesicki, if Higgins ends up playing, maybe that hurts that a little bit. But
correct.
Feels like a late week injury like that. It's not just usually 1 week. It's I think there's still a good chance he misses this week. So I kind of like taking the shot on Gesicki just in case. I guess with Schultz, it's tricky because you have to decide that and start him Thursday night, right? So if that is the option, you don't want to risk Higgins coming back. Maybe Schultz is the smarter player.
Yeah, and honestly, I just think Schultz is in. It's a bad matchup, but I think Schultz is decent enough that like this volume alone could keep him in there. Although they honestly like I don't know, it's hard to run on the Jets too. Like it's just a tough matchup. It really sucks to lose all those guys.
At one source, it's saying Jets 8th fewest points allowed to tight ends this year. So it might.
That's a weird like I hate looking at tight end numbers when it comes to fantasy points allowed because it really does depend on who you played. And I know every position.
They held down Kittle, but yeah, you're right. The rest of the tight ends they play aren't very good. So yeah,
but Kittle's hit or miss, anyways. Like game plan, like it's they want to run the ball more. They're going to keep Kittle in. That's what they do, and so we know that. And so like it depends on who else they had. Like if they had gone against Bowers and McBride and Njoku and still be 8th, fewest, then okay, fine, we're talking. But like, did they go against?
And Cade is probably the next best one after Kittle. Freiermuth, like those are probably the 3 best guys they've gone against. And I mean, none of them scored touchdowns.
Right, and Freiermuth probably had or no, was that the game Russ was back?
Week 7. That was I think the first.
Yeah, Russ was back.
That was the game Russ was back. Yeah,
Sunday night game, right? Yeah.
I still think he's in the conversation, depending on who's out there.
Well, that's the reason I buy. So you won't get to stream Freiermuth this week. So that's one guy you go over.
Right. So, all right. So we got another one here while we're waiting for AJ. I just try to fire through all these. If someone asked for Jefferson and Jameis to get Lamar in a super flex, would you do it? So, okay. So Lamar for Jefferson and Jameis. Daniels is my other QB. My other receivers are neighbors, Diontae, Waddle, and Dell.
Smash people over the face with that QB duo.
So you've got Jameis and Daniels right now. You're trying to upgrade to Lamar, but you've got to give up Justin Jefferson, and it would leave you with your best receiver being neighbors, which is fine. But then your next 3 are iffy. We just talked about Diontae. Waddle's been okay with Tua, but like this last game wasn't great. First game was good, but last year wasn't awesome. Tank Dell, once Nico comes back, goes back to the second receiver on that team. They still got Mixon. I don't know. That's a tough one. I think you can get by with Jamison Daniels and keeping Jefferson. I think having Jamison Jefferson is the combo of those two is better than Lamar by himself. With who you have to replace Jefferson with.
Maybe I'm a little more optimistic on Dell rest of season. Like I think because that worked so well with him as the number 2 to Collins last year. And maybe now that he's been the number 3, he's
super boom bust. But
yeah,
I get it.
Yeah, and he really hasn't got many touchdowns, and that's what he did so well last year. So maybe there is some touchdown regression in that positive direction where he ends the season on a bit of a tear. But I wonder, could you get Neighbors and Jameis done and hang on to Jefferson? And would that even make a difference to you, Joe? Or do you still?
I don't know. Those two are like in a full PPR. Neighbors, like even if he's not scoring touchdowns, like. Dude, he can catch 6 more passes than Jefferson every week. And like that's just how they're using him. And so I don't know, like
if it was having a worse quarterback than Jaden Daniels, which is I guess most of them, but like if your current QB1 was a little weaker, that might be more of an incentive to really get into that tier. But already having Daniels does make it so give me the potential QB1 and the potential wide receiver 1 by keeping Jefferson.
Correct. That's where I'm going with it, is that you don't need the QB1 and the QB3, right? For the rest of the season. I'm just making up. Like, I don't know.
Heck, Jameis could be a top 12.
It'd be awesome.
The rest of the year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I'm saying like Jameis isn't a dud. Like don't bail on it. I think I'd keep the combo. Jaden Reed, DJ Moore, Mattison, or Njoku in my flex. So I usually, if I don't hear if it's PPR or half, I usually just go to half because it is
that's
what
where
it
I ranked
is.
too, so that's easier. Thank you.
Yes, that's where I go. It's between. I gotta look at my rankings. So it would be between Moore and Mattison, and I believe it's Moore for me. Yeah, CJ Moore for me. Well, actually, no. Reed. Hang on, Reed. I was thinking.
The thing with Reed is it might be Malik Willis, right?
Yes.
That's true. Yes. If it's Malik Willis, then it's DJ Moore. If it is Jordan Love, I go Jaden Reed.
I don't know how effective Jordan Love might be. I think it might just be DJ Moore regardless. If he does play, I like with both now a groin and
Jaden Reed hasn't been good lately, so I mean, there's that too.
Yeah. I think I would just go DJ Moore. Yeah, that probably makes the most sense. DJ Moore and Mattison, that is tricky because I think we like Mattison a lot for the volume. We'll probably talk about him a few times today. There'll be a volume of discussion topics involving Mattison. Curious to who the tight end is if Troglodyte.
If Njoku's in your flex, who's your tight end one? Maybe he drafted like Njoku and Bowers.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And that's very viable.
Njoku and Ferguson as well.
Yeah,
Njoku and Ingram. So
we got another one here. Superflex Flacco or Winston rest of the season. Also, would you start Flacco over Stroud? Flacco or Winston rest of season? Man, who thought we'd be talking about these two? Oh my god.
It used to be last year's Flacco on the Browns again. Again, part of me thinks if the Colts lose enough games, they could go back to Richardson. I think there's more fear of that. There's incentive there because he's their first round, 4th overall pick, as we've mentioned. Like, do the Browns really want to turn it over to Dorian Thompson-Robinson? I don't know that they really see a future with him. If they're thinking of a long-term future quarterback, they're probably thinking the draft next year, the draft in 2026. So I think, to me, there's less risk of Winston losing the job. I think anyway, but there's a chance they both play the rest of the season. That's a good point, but I guess that's my lean is on Winston.
Yeah, I do have Winston higher. I just updated him today. So he is definitely higher. So yeah, there you go. 0.5 PPR. I need one sit.
Well, we
need to sit one. Oh, start Flacco or Stroud. That's actually a good one because Stroud does not have a good matchup this week.
No, the Jets and everyone injured.
Oh gosh, man, they are back to back in my rankings right now. I mean, that's a true coin flip in my opinion.
I've got Flacco 3 spots higher than Stroud, so that's.
I've got Stroud just slightly higher, but I mean, I get it.
I guess what's nice is that we have the clarity, right? Like if this was, we're not sure if we're going to start Richardson or Flacco, then you'd probably just play Stroud Thursday night and just to not risk it. But I'd be pretty certain, like, that they're not going back on this, and the way they sound, like they're not going to go back on this, even this game. Like Flacco isn't going to get benched if he plays bad.
No, I don't think so either. So it's a coin flip to me. I lean Stroud ever so slightly. You seem like you're leaning Flacco. I mean, this is one of those, like, man, just go with your gut. It's your team. Like, honestly, like I there's no wrong answer with these two, in my opinion.
And I think, to be fair, I'm going with my goal line gut, because, like, if I look at the goal line grades, passing wise, the Colts have one higher, and their difference between their run grade is also.
Well, I will, but you got to forget that Jonathan Taylor hasn't been fully healthy all year, so that's going to change things. I really do think that's going to change things, but yeah. So,
and I mean, the Minnesota defense is really tough, so that doesn't really give a goal line indication one way or the other in both instances. So.
Yeah, 0.5 PPR need to sit one. Really Tintel, Waddle, Jason, Tillman.
Right. That being said, all that talk about the goal line guy, like I don't know if I'm just too high on Tank Dell this week, but I'm ranking him as a close to top 15 guy, certainly in the top 20, just based on the fact that he's seemingly going to get all the targets now. I've got him at wide receiver 17, so he'd be the first guy I'd look to start.
I've got him at wide receiver 20, so he's in. Waddle is right below him, so he's in. Tillman. Ooh, Smith-Njigba is right now 32 for me. Tillman's 34. Again, it's early. A lot of things are going to change, unfortunately. Yeah, you got to come to the site to get them, but right now I would sit Tillman. I mean, like, there is something to the fact that, like, Geno Smith and the Seahawks are, like, they're just passing for a absolute crap ton of yards right now. So, like, there you go. And I know Winston can do it, but we also know Winston can have these games where he throws for 125 yards and four interceptions. So those are going to happen.
If news of DK Metcalf is active, does that change your opinion?
Because I'm almost wondering, does that help JSN? Because it seemed like that whole offense really failed to operate without DK, but was that whole offense failed just because the Bills' defense is so good? Would that have happened with Metcalf, or does Metcalf being there?
It probably would, though. Like, honestly, just because you do get less volume his way. You project less volume. So, and Tillman's been crazy good, like, with volume the last 2 weeks. So, all right, well, let's get into our start-sit portion of the show that we have set up. I know we spent a lot of time on this so far, but so Kyle, we might have to go a little quick on these, a little quicker than we usually do. And I know AJ's not here, unfortunately. I don't know what's going on with him, so hopefully we get him back here soon. But let's just keep the show rolling. With our,
if need be, I'll be the tiebreaker.
I mean, knowing your questions, we're not going to need one.
Well, you can just start off with that attitude. You get
this one's easy.
All right, Caleb Williams versus the Cardinals, or Patrick Mahomes versus the Buccaneers. Fight.
It's Caleb Williams, man. I'm sorry. Like, I know everybody wants to go back to the Pat Mahomes train every single week. I just don't get it. Dude, I did not realize how kind of bad it had gotten, and I knew he hadn't finished QB1, all year. I thought for a while there he was hovering around like QB 15. So I was like, all right, I mean, he's not terrible. Dude, I looked at Sleeper today. He's QB 21. Like, what is happening? I don't know how you can start this guy anymore. It's just, they're just not relying on his arm to win games right now. He can do it. We all know he can, but they're just not relying on his arm to win games. It's the run game. Kareem Hunt looks awesome. This offensive line is great, and the defense is stout. Did you see that? I mean, I know it's the Raiders, but like, they turned the ball over, like, and they got the ball within like the 2-yard line. The Raiders did not score. They lost yards. the entire, like in 4 downs, they lost yards. That's how good this front is for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, it is nasty. They just don't need to rely on Mahomes to do it. So I'm in with Caleb, man. Maybe call me crazy.
I don't know if I'm overreacting to just one bad week from Caleb, but it's supposed to be like this really easy matchup against the Commanders, and he really fell flat with all his receivers back. So,
dude, it's weird to say, but like the Commanders like have these games like that you're like, where'd this defense come from? They do it every now and then. Like they've done it a few times this season already, and they just happen to do it against the Bears.
It could be Shane Waldron.
Yeah, that's
I mean, there is a little bit of that too.
Definitely trust you read more. I do have, in a sense, maybe partially this decision in a Scar Fishbowl because it's a super flex. I could play both, but we were talking earlier about not dropping backup quarterbacks. I picked up Malik Willis going into week 2, and I just kept him rostered the whole time. Like, okay, Love's got this knee thing. Who knows if something else aggravates or comes up again? So I'm possibly considering benching Williams to play Malik Willis this week. So obviously, if we find out Love starting,
that's an interesting one. I don't hate that one as much because
yeah, exactly, Mike.
I don't hate that one.
Helps because Malik Willis is going to use the ground game more than the passing game.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So like we all think that the Commanders is an easy matchup for quarterbacks. Okay, if I had to ask you, if you had to guess what their rank is for fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks, what is it?
Well, especially now after we just saw Caleb, I would say I'll go 14. Like 14.
23rd.
Sorry, 23rd?
They are 7th, or what is that, 9th best?
Okay.
Against quarterbacks. They allow a ton of yards to receivers. They're horrible against receivers. Hey, there he is. But they don't allow a lot of points to quarterbacks. Oddly enough, it's kind of strange.
Just touchdowns, right? Like the receivers are gaining yards, but they're stopping them from scoring touchdowns.
I guess, and then they run it in on them or something. I haven't really dived into it that much. I mean, I know they are very middle of the pack against the run, so maybe that's kind of what it is. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm just leaning Caleb because the Cardinals are not good. They're allowing the 7th most points to quarterbacks. So I'll go back to Caleb and just think, coming off the bye, it was just kind of a weird week. Maybe the hype of the number 1 versus number 2 pick got to kind of both of them. Neither one of them had a great game, honestly. So it is what it is. AJ, rapid fire, man. Who you got?
You muted.
Yeah.
Sorry. I think matchup wise, I agree. I'm going to go Williams. I mean, it's kind of close for me, but we've talked about it. I feel like for the last few weeks now, Mahomes has just not been very Mahomes-like, and yeah, I just think it's tough too because he's a Monday night game. So I don't love waiting until Monday for my top players to play. Especially in a 1 quarterback league, that scares me sometimes. And I actually just dealt with that this past week. Joe, I think you missed my text. I was crazy, and I should not have played Russell Wilson over Kyler or Baker. Tampa.
I saw the text come in, and I thought I replied, and apparently I never actually hit send. I had the answer in my response, and I was like, "Oh, I never answered him. I hope he didn't do it."
Yeah,
it's funny. I benched Xavier last week too, and I regretted it. AJ,
so I had him in a couple of different leagues, and I mean I've been a Baker truther for weeks now, being like, start him. He's a must start. Screw it. And I couldn't do it this week because I was like, oh, he just lost his top 2 weapons. Mm-hmm. He's got Cade Otton, but he's got Cade Otton. So
you forgot it's National Tight End Day.
He's been phenomenal. I don't mean that as disrespect to Cade Otton, but it's like that's his only option at this point. Yeah. And a bunch of other things. But either way, again, I digress. I'm going Williams in this quick matchup. Let's move on.
All right, next up.
All right, Kyle, you get Tua Tagovailoa versus the Bills, or Bo Nix on a hot streak versus the Ravens. Fight.
One of the many plugs I'll make for the goal line guide article, but I did write up the Broncos offense this week, having the highest goal line grade. And stick around for the end of the episode, and I'll really explain what all that means. But highest goal line grade for their passing game. So this could be just like we saw last week, another week where Bo Nix throws multiple touchdowns. It says ECR 15. I'm going to be one of the higher rankers on him, I suppose. I have him at QB 8 this week, so maybe not quite must start for sure, but in this case, I would start him.
Got you, man.
Nice.
Look at all this. Look at all this glorious data.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Get on to the site. Read this stuff. This is good.
There we go. There we go. We got the Denver Broncos right here.
Yeah.
Look at all this. Goodness.
There's that good-looking quarterback, Bo Nix.
Because I'm the one who edits this, so I read all this every week, and I'm like, this is fantastic stuff, guys. So definitely come check it out. So
it's certainly influencing my ranking of Bo Nix, I gotta say, but I'll stick with what I believe in.
I mean, I don't blame you, man. He's been good. I don't know if I'm ranking him quite as high as you, but he's definitely moving up every single week for me.
I mean, he's. Are you good, Kyle? Can I jump in?
That was my whole argument about Nix. Read the article if you want more.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said earlier, this Denver offense has been coming on lately. They've had 2 divisional games in Vegas, and then the Chargers, and then the last 2 games against NFC South with New Orleans, and then last week at home against Carolina. I mean, all 3 of those home games, he's been phenomenal. Multiple touchdowns in each, only 1 interception. The yardage, last week he finally had the yardage there at 284. The other 3 weeks it's been kind of low, but he runs the ball. He's getting you yards where he needs to. He's getting you touchdowns. He's not turning the ball over. I mean, he's been good, and I've started him for the past at least 3 or 4 weeks in Scott Fish over like Trevor Lawrence. This week I have 5 starters because I have Malik Willis, I have Lawrence, I have Nix, I have Mahomes, and I have Flacco. So he's in the starting lineup though. I mean, he's like my lock to start, and the other ones I got to figure out, I guess. But Nix has been good. I like where this offense is going. I mean, again, it's a road game, but we just talked about Baltimore's defense not being that good.
Their secondary is banged up too, so they've been allowing a lot of yards in the air.
Really good against the run. So of course,
phenomenal against the run. Like Javonte Williams out, like thanks. This is all. It's got to all happen in the passing game. And so I talked about this on the IDP Hunter show this past Monday night that Steve and I do. He was one of my studs from this past week, and really for the last 4 weeks, QB 8, QB 9, QB 2. The 1 week that you were talking about, AJ, he was QB 18. They blew out the Saints. He didn't need to pass the ball. They didn't have to do anything.
Still ran for 75 yards.
Right. So it did
on 10 rushes. It's like, man, see ya.
Yeah. 7 passing TDs, only 2 not turning the ball over, just 1 interception. That is fantastic for a rookie. Just be in control. Let this defense kind of help you, not have to do too much, and he's making it work. Tua's Tua, he's fine. It's gonna rely on if he hits a deep shot or 2 to Hill. But honestly, what happens a lot with this Miami offense, it feels like, is they get really close and then they just lean on this run game, and so Mostert gets in. HN, if they're within the 15-yard line, 15-yard line, they'll just dump it off to HN and he'll get in. So they're not letting Tua throw the ball in the red zone as much, and so he's not getting all those touchdowns. He relies on the deep ball to get into the end zone. And so I'm on Nix in this one. So
all right, AJ, you get to start us off with the running backs, and it's a triple threat. You get Brian Robinson versus the Giants, Chuba Hubbard versus the Saints, and Chase Brown versus the Raiders. Who you starting? Who you sitting?
I'm starting Brian Robinson because hashtag suck at Keith. It's the Giants. And Najee Harris did have a really nice game on Monday. It's a short week for them, so they've got to prepare for this. Washington's coming off that huge emotional win. Obviously, it wasn't a Robinson touchdown that got him the win, but he's been good. He's hard to sit out of this bunch. Oh, the other two, I feel like the matchups are good either way. Both of these teams I feel like can be had. But I think I'm gonna have to lean with starting Hubbard over Brown slightly. I mean, New Orleans they've just fallen off hard, and we thought they were like Super Bowl bound after 2 weeks. And then it's like,
I don't know what you were drinking, but no, I'm not.
I mean, I thought they were going to win the division. I'll go that far.
Right? Yes.
I'll down
now.
Yeah, and I mean, these two teams have already faced off, obviously, in week 1. Hubbard didn't do anything.
The Sanders played a ton that game, I remember. So
he was out carried. He was out carried by 1, but he had
Bryce Young played that game too, and he is expected to play this game as well.
So
who said that? Because
okay, maybe I need
he
to
did look better in this first. This first game back was probably his best game all year. Right?
Yes,
it was.
So maybe sitting actually did help him a little bit.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna lean with Hubbard still, just because the Saints blew out the Panthers at home, and now the Panthers are at home. They're gonna have a little revenge on their minds because the Saints are so just down right now. I mean, not that they're that much better, but it's interesting. And no Diontae there. I think they lean on the run a little bit more this week. So, going Hubbard.
Go ahead, Joe.
It's Brian Robinson. I'm going Hubbard just because you absolutely know they've got nobody else to give the ball to there. Like, they've got to just pound the rock with Chuba Hubbard, right? Like, who are they throwing to? Like,
it could be Chuba Hubbard too, right? Like that means be more
right, exactly. Like it's the ghost of Adam Thielen. If he's even healthy,
he's not coming off.
Like Leggett, sure, I guess he's been all. Leggett's been okay.
You got Coker.
Jalen Coker.
I'm good, man. I love some Chase.
How
Brown.
dare you besmirch Tommy Tremble?
He's got a nice matchup too.
Weird way to pronounce Tavian Sanders' name.
Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say. Tavian Sanders got something to say about that.
Hubbard's the guy right now. I mean, they are all very, very close. I could easily see these swapping once, just my gut just falls in the different direction come Sunday morning, unfortunately. So this is like an answer, non-answer right now.
I mean, look at the ECR, right? This is kind of that range.
This is kind of right around where I have them. I've got them 18, 21 to 23 right now, so very close.
It's a strange coincidence how that worked. Sure, not by design by Mike at all.
No.
Welcome to the show.
So the thing with Brian Robinson, so my Canadian bias wants to say, play the two Canadians, play Chuba Hubbard and Chase Brown. But you guys both said it, right? Brian Robinson, there's a reason he's the highest in ECR, even if it is just by one spot. He's been pretty consistent all year. Early in the season, had more passing game involvement than he has since his injury. I think he's got one catch since he's come back from injury.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's also Jaden Daniels' confidence throwing downfield more, but also helping that offense be better. Good for it's a positive for Brian Robinson if that offense operates well. He seems to be the main goal line back. So
I'll say though he's got the worst matchup out of the three, which is odd.
Yeah, it really.
It's funny because the Giants allowed him to have a season high 133 rush yards.
Right.
So it was one of his better games. That was actually a game he didn't score a touchdown. So I wonder if that's been maybe the Giants' strength is not allowing as many touchdowns, so their points are low, but they'll allow a lot of production, at least to the running back. But yeah, I agree with you that Robinson is the guy, and I think we'll make it 3 for 3 saying Hubbard as well as the second start. I talked about in the goal line guide. One of my phrases in that article was like, we don't know when Brooks is coming back. We don't know if that's going to be soon and what kind of workload he's going to have. So may as well ride Chuba Hubbard while you have him. This is kind of before Brooks gets back. So this might be one last hurrah with it. But Saints passing defense is especially good inside the red zone. So there's good touchdown upside in theory for Hubbard as well if they can get that far.
Yeah.
All right, so we got some questions here. I just want to rapid fire through these because we have already gone kind of long here. Andrew's, I got a couple here. Andrew, I'll try to get to some of them, but you got to jump into our Discord to get some of these answered. Answering 4 on the air might be kind of hard. Spillane or Alucon as defender. I'm not an IDP guy. I don't know about you, Kyle, but this is definitely Discord material for me. Like, you got to come in and ask Steve and our IDP guys. I don't know.
One thing I'll say with this Jags defense this year, I don't know if Aluakon's been getting this, like, because he's been almost a locked-in starter with tons of tackles. I think their defense this year, he's not quite tasked to do as much. I think I'm starting Robert Spillane in my IDP league. So in that positive sense, I'll say it's Spillane, and then like hope that's good juju for me that he'll be a good starter. But I mean,
he actually only has 2. He just put in 4 different questions here. So Hunt or Higgins flex is what he meant to say. So it was just asked like 4 different times. So I apologize. Hunt or Higgins. I mean, if Higgins is even in.
Well, no. I'm playing Monday night, so at least you won't have that kind of blind decision to have to make.
I mean,
but Higgins is always tough coming off an injury because we've seen him also just re-injure himself.
Yes, he does.
He's the type of player you want to see play first before starting him, and
always in his first game back usually is like, did he come back too early? Sometimes it feels like I don't know why. Like that's just playing in the background. So I lean Hunt. I do.
Yeah, I'm leaning. I said that's his MO. Like he comes back and it seems like it's always too early. It's like, bro, just sit out another week. Come on. Like,
I lean Hunt here.
Same thing is like with Jonathan Brooks too. Like when Pacheco's back, you don't want to play Hunt. So while you have these weeks without Pacheco, keep playing Hunt. And deal with that.
Oh yeah, dude. I honestly still don't even know if Pacheco's coming back. Like there has been there's been a tweet of him walking on the treadmill. People would say he was running. I didn't actually see it. I finally watched it. He was walking. He wasn't running. He was walking. Dude, he is not close.
The initial reports, I know some people are saying 6 to 8 weeks. That seemed like that was like on the very optimistic side. But there was talk when it first happened that this could be like rest of regular season. So
yeah, I'm not totally confident he's coming back. So should I drop anybody off this bench for Keon Coleman? Leggett, Mooney, or Khalil? Need a backup receiver. DJ Moore got Jefferson as well. Bench. Okay, I'm kind of losing it here. So he Waddle
for Coleman maybe.
Myers, Downs, ETN is on his bench. He wants to pick up Coleman. Coleman would be the guy, or actually no, maybe Mooney would be the guy. I missed that one. Mooney would be the guy, and I would drop Myers.
I could see dropping both Myers and Wandale to get Mooney and Coleman.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
Mooney kind of plays the same role as them slot receivers, but it seems like he's been more explosive, more efficient, especially than Wandale, but even Myers included. And being targeted by Kirk Cousins and Josh Allen as opposed to Daniel Jones.
I don't hate it. But also, you're probably you're starting Downs this week.
I think you're definitely starting Downs
for sure.
Myers has been good, man.
Myers is good, but it's the Raiders.
I get that, but they got to throw to somebody. I mean, we talk about that all the time. Volume is king, and he's been getting it. Trey Tucker's been freaking gone.
No, he's disappeared.
So it's basically.
I think you could safely cut Wandale for one of those guys, Mooney.
I think Wandale's first. Like he's volume, but it's also like
good, but he's starting to kind of.
He's going to catch like 8 for like 45
Especially with Slayton coming on strong now. I mean,
yeah, that's true. That is true.
It's more of a dig at you, but
I know.
Also, hashtags.
I'd rather have Hunter Henry, I think. Anyway.
Is there Hunter Henry?
Tank Dell or Josh Downs, PPR. Dude, I don't know. I'd probably go Downs. Downs is going to catch a crap ton of passes.
Yeah.
We know if
Dell could too, though.
I mean, who's in your flex?
Secondary?
You play both.
True, yeah. True. That's an interesting. Offered Kamara for Jacobs and Myers. Should I take it? Ooh.
That's an interesting one. Damn. I just talked up Myers, so.
My rest of season rankings definitely have Kamara higher than Jacobs. So I'd lean it. I'm guessing you're not really using Myers, would be my guess here. So if you're really just looking to upgrade Jacobs to Kamara, I'm fine with it.
Using a bench receiver. If Myers is a starter most weeks, it might be.
It's close. It's close.
Or who are you picking up off the waiver?
Yeah.
To fill the open spot to pair with Kamara.
I think Myers is replaceable.
Yeah.
You're not going to get, so that's fine.
Can you pick up Darnell Mooney or Keon Coleman?
Yeah, exactly.
I know, right?
Last question.
Can I be in that league? No. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with the deal. Get Kamara, especially if it's a PPR league. Absolutely get Kamara all day. Derek Carr looking like he's very, very close to returning. That offense will be far better with him in there. Wonder what y'all thought about B-Rob versus Josh Jacobs rest of the season, full PPR. Oops, sorry.
Probably pretty close.
Yeah, that is
similar. Jacobs might get more game involvement.
Gonna help be a PPR.
I would say in full PPR, Jacobs, because yes, he's more involved in the passing game. That's the big deal there.
And B-Rob's been a little banged up. They still have Eckler there. I mean, McNichols was a thing for 2 weeks. But if him being B-Rob misses time, he could come back in. So I like Jacobs as well.
Yep. Saints or Chargers D, I'm assuming you mean this week. Call me crazy, man. I'm going back to the Saints this week.
I just picked them up in the league. That's crazy at all.
I was picking up everybody that was playing them for the past few weeks. Chargers.
I don't blame you. But this week, honestly, going against Bryce Young,
Carolina,
and then they just trade. I know Diontae didn't play last week, but they just traded him.
I mean, it is their best game of the.
I'm attacking this Carolina team until they show me they could do something with Bryce Young under center. So
he produced last week, and he still threw 2 interceptions. So.
Right. So there you go. And he's going to allow sacks because he just has no pocket presence, man. There's something missing, unfortunately. I really like Bryce coming out of college. This has been a bad situation there, unfortunately. I think he's better than this, but this is why, these guys coming into these horrible situations in the NFL, and you just put them in, it stunts their growth. It really does. So I traded Ladd for Diontae Smith's thoughts. Overall, I like it, but Ladd's been good and coming on. I talked about that in my usage article as well.
Yeah.
But overall, this is a good move. Any thoughts on Puka rest of the season? He's going to be good.
top 12 wide receiver rest of the season. Right?
If he's healthy, he's good. There you go. All right, let's move on. We gotta really fly through a couple of these guys. So,
all right, rapid fire.
Got a lot of questions. Holy cow! Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. But wow,
Wednesday nights, right?
I know, right?
Yeah,
who knew?
This is new.
Who knew?
The last
time no one's watching the game.
Maybe just don't do it during the Thursday night games.
Yeah.
Huh. We might move. Maybe.
It's funny because I do see enough shows during the halftime of Thursday night, so you aren't the only ones either.
We did it because of one of our schedules years ago, and I don't forget why. I blame it on you, AJ. Let's move on.
All right, Joe. Well, you get the first crack at this one. You want Raheem Mostert versus the very vulnerable Bills defense. Rhamondre Stevenson against the Titans, or Javonte Williams versus the Ravens. Fight.
Sitting Javonte. I mean, I kind of said that earlier. Like, I want nothing to do with Javonte.
I kind of want to screenshot that face you just made.
Yeah,
I don't like it either because Mostert's he's touchdown dependent at this point. Like, he's getting a lot of snaps. And I talked about this in the users article too. Like, he's getting great snap counts just right there with Achane. They're carrying the ball almost identical. Obviously, Achane's more involved in the passing game. Mostert's getting like the goal line work though. Like, that's the difference, right? Achane will get one here and there, but like, it's Mostert. When they're there, like, they rely on him. That's tough to trust. But in this case, Javonte Williams is coming off a horrible game. Worst one in many, many weeks. And now he gets to go play a very tough Baltimore front. I want nothing to do with that.
Yeah,
all right, Kyle.
Agree. Yeah, sorry, Mike. I agree. Javonte being the last one you want. So if it is start 2, then yeah, bench Javonte. If it's only start 1, Rhamondre would be the guy I think I'd go to just for
Agreed.
Safety of predicting he'll get more volume. And we've seen Gibson and even Jermichael Hasty get some work. But tough
Gibson has
matchup against the
faded
Titans.
away into the abyss, but yeah.
I mean, it is a tough matchup against the Titans.
Does it change
Titans
if
are
it's
fun
Brissett
streamer.
Like if it's
Man,
set,
but I gotta go. I gotta go with Car Ramrod because that's my thing. I've coined that name, so I'm picking him.
You're sitting Stevenson?
No. I'm going with Car Ramrod. I'm sitting Javonte, and
okay.
Mostert.
So clean sweep again, Mike. Gotcha.
You suck. I'm just kidding.
I mean, I didn't think it'd be a clean sweep on Williams. I thought maybe Mostert.
I think we're all just afraid of that Ravens defense.
Yeah.
That's my fault, Kyle. Anytime there's 3 players involved, it's always start 2, sit 1.
Okay.
So you get to
Next.
start us off, though, with our wide receivers, where I think it gets a little bit more difficult. Kyle, you get Josh Downs versus the Vikings, Jaylen Waddle versus the Bills, or Lad McConkey versus the Browns. Fight.
I think Flacco starting makes it easier to at least identify having to play Josh Downs.
Yeah.
That's where I would start, and he's the one that's in there. And between Waddle and McConkey, I mean, last year the Browns' defense was amazing, and we'd want to avoid it. This year it hasn't been the case, but now with the better quarterback, does maybe the whole team improve and the defense kind of gets back to what they've been. Don't love that for McConkey. I mean, the thing with the Dolphins, they haven't had great results against the Bills of late. So Waddle, I like him. I'm encouraged the fact that Tua is back, but I also don't think he's a must start. But I think I do have him higher than McConkey in the rankings. So.
Yeah. I'm with you, Kyle. It's super close. Downs is the one that kind of separates just slightly. It's very close between Ladd and Waddle. You like the chemistry that you see between Tua and Waddle, but Ladd has been coming on strong. And but I still go back to Jaylen Waddle. You could see this being like a shootout game again, right? With Buffalo and Miami. You kind of that's always kind of a very high possibility of a game that happens there. And you're right. Cleveland, with an offense that actually is going to stay on the field longer, it's much different. It's just a much different team. So,
yeah, I mean, Downs is he didn't practice today with this toe issue, but it's really kind of more of a like maintenance thing. I feel like Pittman's kind of in the same boat. They still, miss some practice, but they still play with Flacco there and giving Downs the green light. McConkey had a really, really nice game last week. He has been coming on. Quentin Johnston was questionable yesterday, maybe still is today. I think McConkey, he may be taking over that number 1 receiver spot in my depth chart here soon. He probably deserves to, just because Johnson's really not getting a ton of receptions.
No, McConkey is
regardless.
absolutely the wide receiver.
Yeah, yeah. So
you need to go do that right now.
I need to. All right, I'm gonna go to.
But do they pass the ball enough for him to really?
Well, that's
so here's the thing, and so maybe something you guys don't realize. So I talked about this so no, they do not pass the ball enough. Like that's kind of an issue. It's still a very run heavy team, but they have
talk about the last 2 weeks.
Herbert has where's my stat here? So he was 14th. He's now 14th in yards per attempt. Still not great, right? But at least middle of the road. Before the last couple of games, he had a 6.52 yards per average. It's up to 7.36. The last couple of games have been like he's passing the ball farther downfield. And so that's like this passing game is kind of opening up as they're getting more comfortable with each other. So, and Ladd McConkey's the guy he's sort of leaning on. So that's why like Ladd McConkey's arrow is pointing like straight up, dude. It's looking good for him, even though it's a run heavy team. If they only have one guy they trust, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, according to the freshly updated fantasy six-pack depth chart, Ladd McConkey is clearly the wide receiver 1.
Breaking news.
Johnson has dropped down to wide receiver 2. I'm going Ladd and Downs.
Waddles, believe it or not, last 4 weeks, Herbert's 8th in passing attempts and 6th in passing yards. It's kind of done a complete 180 with how they've approached this offense since the Gus Edwards injury.
QJ Logger limited and is trending up. Do we care?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I don't know. Like I know he might take some targets away.
Damn it, Chad! I just got done changing the depth chart. Don't make me do it again.
Breaking news: Quentin Johnson's back in wide receiver 3.
Back at 1.
No,
he's just not getting the targets. I mean, he's getting a few receptions.
Even when he's not good.
It's just whatever.
It's not good. All right, let's move on.
All right, we'll move on. AJ, you want Darnell Mooney versus the Cowboys? Xavier Worthy versus the Buccaneers? Or Courtland Sutton versus the Ravens? Fight. You misunderstood. I said fight, not think.
That is how I fight with my brain.
Fight.
I'm not much for these things. I'm gonna. I don't know. Like I said, I may or may not have been drinking earlier.
That's what he was thinking about. Was that joke?
Exactly.
Aren't you happy he thought?
Yep.
Yeah, sure. No,
I'm gonna go ahead and go with Mooney because Dallas sucks. I mean, that's almost a hashtag suck at Keith, but it's not
sucky.
A hashtag suck
Maybe Dallas is sucky.
Dallas sucky. Old jury gonna be pissed when a guy with his pants down comes streaming across his star on the field. Mooney, get it, butt out.
Okay,
which damn humor? Yes,
right. Are they playing Tampa Bay again?
Yeah. No, Xavier Worthy is playing Tampa Bay. It's clearly in our notes. Thanks for reading.
Jerry Jones is kind of a pirate.
Read the screen, Joe. Jeez, I am reading the screen. I'm kidding.
No, it's not. Well, yeah, it's on the ticker. Never mind.
Read the screen, AJ. I get yelled at every other week from Mike about that.
Oh, these other two are kind of close.
They're all close, actually.
Fuck. Yeah.
Look at the ECR. Mike's good at picking
I am, but
it's coincidence. They're all super close. Mike's behind the camera giving me the big old middle finger. I know he is.
Yeah.
Just shaking my head.
I'm gonna play Worthy here. I know Baltimore can be thrown on. They're banged up. But, I mean, there's nobody else for Mahomes to throw to. He's got Kelsey, I guess, but he's kind of sucked this year too. So, no.
Not yet.
Stop.
Didn't we just talk about receivers that got traded midseason? not good.
Yeah.
Yet. They're not good for weeks.
No. Worthy and Mooney. Sutton.
Ditto.
So I'm actually
Sitting Sutton.
I'm actually following the ECR, and my rankings are almost exactly there. Mooney at 23, Sutton at 26, Worthy at 30. And to get back to the goal line guy, talked about the Broncos this week, so pretty optimistic about Sutton being a strong start. And the results with Mooney have been, Cousins hasn't been great most weeks, but at least Mooney has maintained to be fairly solid and highest over under on the week, I think, at least when I checked. I believe it was Monday actually. So I don't know if it's still there, but potential shootout between the Falcons and Cowboys in a dome, especially like that environment for Mooney. So I'd say Mooney and Sutton. There we go. We don't all agree finally, so that makes it a little interesting. And now I'm going against my Scott Fishbowl heart because I am starting Xavier Worthy.
I will say this. Mooney, like the Cowboys, like are gonna can get run on. This could just be like a Bijan and Algier just blow up game. Honestly,
no, I don't want that because I'm playing Bijan.
I have to throw Algier in a lineup because I'm like out of players this week for some reason in that league. Week 9, I forgot how bad week 9 was for bye weeks for me, and I looked at half my teams and I'm like, oh right, yeah. I didn't fix that before I got here, did I?
My bad.
So, and now I'm looking at the waiver wire. There's nobody out there. So, oh well. Tyler Algier, go Falcons run game.
Goal line guy likes that Falcons run game. To be fair, so
there we go.
Yes.
I'm sincerely shocked that Joe, you chose to start Xavier Worthy, or are you benching him?
I'm gonna start him.
I'm shocked. A man who follows the process. All right. Courtland, Sutton last week, 11 targets. Worthy, 8. So volume favors Sutton. I mean, QB play.
What did Sutton do the week before?
I mean, Bo Nix over Mahomes.
Done all season.
I mean, Sutton's been more relevant than Xavier Worthy. So I'm kind of shocked. I mean, it's just a man of the process. Going with the ceiling.
Oh, no.
I guess maybe good.
Are there any receivers that can stand in Kansas City?
8 targets the past 2 weeks are season highs and career highs for Worthy, right? So he's trending in that right direction.
I will say the reception to target ratio for Worthy has been disappointing to begin the season.
It has.
But from week 5, 5 bye on 6, and then the last 2 weeks,
6, 8, and 8.
He had 8.
I'm okay with that.
6, yeah. I'm good with that as well. He's got 3 touchdowns on the year. His yardage has been pretty bad, actually.
Pretty bad.
50 and all. Oof.
I think he has 5 touchdowns, but I think a couple of those are rushing touchdowns too.
Yeah. Sorry, 5 total touchdowns. I have 3 receiving is what I was going for there. But yeah, 5 total. Maybe I'm changing my mind to Sutton.
Only
I could just see Baltimore
yards.
Absolutely destroying Denver in this game, and they're pissed from losing last week. Right?
I think they're going to come out super angry.
I'm intrigued to see the Surtain Flowers matchup.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But that's not what we're here to talk about. So
Flowers was a difficult one.
And Tampa against receivers is horrible. So there you go.
They allow a lot of points?
Yes.
Darnell Mooney start, the other 2 sit. Change my mind altogether.
Pick up another receiver.
Yeah. Flex
next. Pick up one of these guys.
You guys are no fun. All right. Honestly, I lost track of it. Oh no, it was AJ who started that one. So Joe, you want Cedric Tillman versus the Chargers, Keon Coleman versus the Dolphins, or Michael Pittman versus the Vikings? Go.
I don't really like starting Pittman. He actually hasn't even been that great with Flacco there, but I'm gonna go back to it. super close between Coleman and Tillman. But the Chargers have the better defense of the two matchups here, so I'm going to go back to Coleman.
All right, AJ. Sorry, not AJ. My bad, Kyle.
Yeah.
AJ's typically right after Joe, so I can forgive you for that reflex. Pittman's been so tough to rank this week, frankly. Okay, is Richardson starting? Oh, Flacco, he's there. Oh, he's back issues again. And I think at points I've had him higher than both, and I think currently I actually have Pittman ranked the lowest of the three. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like most of the leagues I have Pittman in, I'm going to start him. Much more exposed to Pittman than I am to Tillman and Coleman. So it's been tough to know like where exactly to put him. Between the guys I'm more stable on and more certain, I've got Tillman.
A random curse word from AJ.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
It's okay, but I mean Tillman, his target share, just flat targets the last couple of weeks have been really impressive with Winston. It doesn't feel like it's a fluke. It feels like it's for real, and should continue to start him. So I think I definitely start Tillman, and then it depends on what hour of the day it is, or how I'm feeling about Pittman. I would say maybe him, maybe Coleman. So yeah, I'm stuck on that one, just knowing where to put Pittman exactly.
AJ?
Sorry for the Tourette's. It was I was scrolling down the list, and again, it was another like guy with jersey from former team now on new team that I totally missed, and it's my boy Jaylen Reagor, freaking bum, is now on the Chargers practice squad, which I did not know. But I was looking through. I'm like, what the heck? When did this happen? He's off the depth chart anyway. I'm like, I just updated the depth chart in show. Now I got to do it again.
Is it like every time you think of Justin Jefferson, you got to go find out what Jaylen Reagor's been doing?
No. Stop. Don't do that.
You got to always connect the dot as an Eagle fan.
Yeah. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. DK Metcalf. Anyway. Yeah, no, I'm gonna start Tillman. I'm loving what I saw out of him last week. It was ridiculous. Jameis seems like he's on a mission, and I think he's gonna keep it up. So I'm playing Tillman. I mean, Pittman, the matchup is so nice. I mean, you look at Minnesota to start the season. You know, you got neighbors, you got everybody from San Fran, and then you got the Houston like ridiculousness. None of them scored touchdowns receiver wise. But since then, you know, against Green Bay, the Jets, Detroit, and the Rams, they've had 10 touchdowns scored against them. So I don't think Downs will get all of the touchdowns. I hope he does because I don't own Pittman anywhere. But I think I'm leaning Pittman over Coleman in this one. And I'll
the smart thing to do with Pittman, though, and I'm kind of checking in my leagues to make sure, is because it's a Sunday night and with his back issues, we're not really sure is have another option available.
Yeah, absolutely.
Monday player. Like I think in one league, I can bench DeAndre Hopkins, and then if Pittman's out, I can. Okay, let's go back with Hopkins. It didn't work.
Good luck with that one.
That's better. Much rather keep Hopkins as a emergency option than a guy I'm automatically starting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Another one, it's Jordan Addison. If Pittman's out, I'll just throw Jordan Addison in that same game. So.
Yeah, and again, you know, Pittman's another guy who, Joe, you mentioned, he hasn't really been that impressive this year. I mean, he's had under 60 yards in every game except 2. And, you know, the receptions just really aren't there. They're just all over the place. They're up and down. He only has 2 touchdowns. You know, the target share is still there. So even though he's only caught, you know, half, it seems like almost every game. I think it's a safer bet. I think with Flacco back in the fold, you know, he can succeed again.
Sound more excited. All right, Kyle, you get our tight end question. You want David Njoku versus the Chargers or spicy hot Cade Otton off of 2 touchdowns versus the Chiefs?
I think we alluded to Njoku earlier. Someone asked a flex question. We were, who you starting over Njoku? It's very few, at least for me. They're close to my rankings, but I've got Njoku a couple spots higher at tight end 5. Same argument as Tillman. I mean, those two have been getting most of the targets with Winston, and it doesn't feel like it's a fluke. Like that's probably how they're going to gear the offense to. I think especially expected that from Njoku. Once Cooper was traded, he seemed like he's maybe the most likely to get the most consistent targets week in, week out. Now, Otton, I suppose, is that guy right now as well with Evan for a couple more weeks at least. Otton obviously out for the year. So, yeah, you've got 2 potential good target options at tight end. Safe producing tight end targets. Like, man, we were clamoring for this early in the season. Now, all produced at the same time. So now it's all difficult decisions. But, yeah, leaning, I guess, my rankings, the ECR with Njoku slightly ahead.
AJ?
So, I mean, both of these teams are really good against the opposing receivers. Not so much against the tight ends, but that said, the Chargers have yet to still give up a touchdown to opposing tight ends. I'm leading Otton on this because he has just been phenomenal and, just 20 targets over the last 2 weeks, 181 yards, 2 touchdowns last week, 3 touchdowns in his last 3 games. I'm leaning Otton on this one. Kansas City is the worst against, according to the metric I'm looking at. So
the second worst for the one I'm looking at. Yeah, it's just I don't know if this is PPR or half PPR. I don't know which one I pulled up. It's just the first one that showed up on Google. I'm leaning at Njoku. I mean, like I know the Chargers defense has been really, really good, but man, the Chiefs defense has just seemed seemingly unstoppable, in a lot of weeks. So I know maybe,
are you going Otton?
tight ends can actually do pretty well against them. It seems like it just seems like a different story now with Winston in there. And it seems like the Browns with Tillman and Elijah Moore have a little bit more, like, it's more competition for Njoku, but it's actually like a good thing because if teams are really smart about it, they're just going to shut down Otton and make McMillan and Palmer and Sterling Shepard beat them. Like, good luck. Like, they don't care. That is
one high-quality triumvirate right there.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why it was Otton, Rashad White, and Bucky Irving that had the most receptions last game. Come on. Like, no.
I mean,
hey, look,
these tight ends are connected. They both have first overall picks at quarterback, even though they're not the teams that they drafted them, but they're on the opposite teams.
They're opposites now.
Cleveland drafted Baker, but now he's on Tampa, and Tampa drafted Jameis. He's on Cleveland. So it's funny how it's all come from.
That's pretty funny.
That is an interesting.
I did not even think of that. So
Mike knew that coming into this question. Son of a bitch.
No,
How
he didn't.
dare you?
All right.
No.
He's like, nah.
At least he was honest about it.
I'm
All right,
humble.
let's do our flex question.
Yep, AJ, you get this flex one. Khalil Shakir versus the Dolphins, or you want Alexander Mattison versus the Bengals?
I'm going Mattison. I mean he's been good. He's definitely been flex worthy a lot of weeks this season. I mean, I get that the Bills just continue to own Miami as of late, but no, for me it's Mattison.
Joe, I thought you would have got the rhythm by now.
I'm sorry, answering somebody. Yeah, it's Mattison. It's just I like Shakir. He's been good. I'm just kind of waiting for that game. Like you just never know what's going to happen when Cooper's really going to get back involved. And so if you're having to pick between Shakir and Mattison, who's the starting running back, yes, I granted on a very good team, but he is by far the RB1 on this team now at this point.
Yeah.
Zamir White is an afterthought. It's just Amir, Abdullah is whatever. It's Mattison. So
the safety and the floor of Madison's volume, I think, is makes it appealing. I think we mentioned earlier in the episode, Khalil Shakir 10 targets last week. But I think we're also expecting Cooper with each passing week is going to take up more room in the offense. Yeah. And I guess maybe this is a good, since our last question, good time to talk about the goal line guide. And I could maybe use it to explain a bit of the process with specific examples for these two. But my goal line guide article is something where I track all the plays inside the 5-yard line. And I do that for both the offense and the defense. And the goal line guide is essentially a matchup-based article where I'm looking at the data from one team's offense versus their opposing defense in that particular week. And then I end up with a goal line grade for each team running, but also passing. Higher the number, maybe the more likelihood of touchdowns. But I think what's really key is the difference between the two. Because a couple of years ago when I was doing this, I noticed, this team has 2 really high scores. Oh, great for all the players. And then kind of realized not every team's going to score a ton of touchdowns every week. So really finding the difference between the 2 scores is really pointing the direction of, are they going to go on the ground more, or are they going to be through the air? This is, I guess, a bad example for upside in both players because the difference for the goal line grades are in the opposite directions of what we want.
Yeah, I was just noticing that myself looking at this.
The Bills have a better rushing goal line grade and the Raiders have a better passing goal line grade. So that means the touchdown upside for both these players that we're talking about are probably lower. So if there's not much upside for either player, Mattison probably makes sense because of the safer floor. So that's where I think I would lean that way too.
Yep.
I like it.
Yeah,
right.
I guess that transitions to the next section. I was going to talk about the goal line guy. But
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, that was
explanation,
perfect.
I hope, an example of kind of the application of it.
Yeah, and I think obviously you can find this on Fantasy Six Pack. He does it every week. This week, highlighting who were the teams of? I know the Panthers, the Vikings were one, the Broncos, and the Falcons were the other one. So,
yeah, and to your point, like of Bijan and Algier, I mentioned both them in the article of potential touchdown upside.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. Well, that is it for our week 9 start sit portion of the show. Next, we're going to get into our observations that we do. Kyle, I know you're new to the show. What we do here is we talk about some observations that we've had either from the last couple of weeks, some trends, or just kind of season long stuff you want to talk about. Whatever it is, man, just sort of talking points, man. So we'll let you go first as the guest here.
Well, talking Khalil Shakir actually makes a lot of sense. And one of the reasons why the Bills passing goal line grade is so low is so up to, we're 8 weeks in with data. The Dolphins are the only team to not allow a passing touchdown inside the 5-yard line yet this year. So when teams get close to the goal line, like so far they have had 0 success scoring touchdowns against the Dolphins. You look at the Bills, okay, maybe that hurts the receivers this week. It probably doesn't hurt Josh Allen that much, though. His ability to run maybe helps him, but certainly, last time they played the Dolphins, James Cook, I think, was the RB2. Even I'm like this week, I think I still have him at like RB7. That still feels like it's too low.
I remember that.
I look at the 6 names ahead of him, and it's like, I really love Ken Walker and Jahmyr Gibbs, and obviously like the Derrick Henry, Saquon, like those guys locked in up there. So it's tough to put him higher than 7.
Right? Yeah.
But it still feels like, man, I could still be too low on James Cook this week. Seemingly like a strong run funnel defense.
It's one of those, like, you have him ranked there and you're like, I would not be one bit surprised if he finishes like in the top 5, but like you just, you can be bold and like do that, but it's not. You're kind of doing a disservice to people. I think when you like go like out there and like rank a guy over like Kyron Williams. Not that anybody actually has that decision, so it doesn't ultimately really matter. But like
you have these players, they're all in the lineup. But
yeah, they're all in the lineup, so like it doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
People might look for DFS purposes, right? Okay, who should be the guys targeted in lineups?
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, like Ken Walker, the bad week last week with the Bills. He's been so consistent almost every other week that is it all just again DK makes this offense operate, and if he's not there, it's complete shambles, or was it just the Bills' really good situation? It was also like kind of a game where like they got up early and they're trying to keep momentum going on what they view as a long playoff run. I suppose. I mean, Seahawks are currently tied for their division lead. I think the Cardinals technically have it, but they got to be thinking that too. But it just seemed I'm not going to overreact to one game. Is all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
I'll put him back in the top 5 again.
Cool. AJ, you got yours, or you want me to?
Yeah, I mean, I am just very tired of everybody just handing the Chiefs whatever they want. First it's the refs handing them wins in the first few weeks. Now it's teams like, Tennessee Titans who suck, handing them DeAndre Hopkins, who's obviously not the nuke that we came to know and love through fantasy, but still better than whatever the hell else they're putting out on the field. And then you get New England, who's like, like our season sucks too, so we're just going to give you, our linebacker Uche. I mean,
because they need more help on defense. Although maybe they do because tight ends are killing them.
But I just, it's like, all right, I get it. The rich get richer, this and that, but like, does anybody even actually care about trying to win the Super Bowl this year? Are we just going to let them have whatever the hell else is out there because, well, every single one of their receivers is injured and their running back is injured, and who's going to be the next domino to fall to Kansas City from wherever? It's like, it's just annoying. I'm just over it. Stop giving them players. Make them freaking earn it, and let's see them actually play a game. Like they've sucked ass this year, and I love Andy Reid, but this is just ridiculous. It's the only undefeated team left, and they shouldn't be undefeated. So,
I mean, even the Bills, like this started.
The script is written.
During the draft, letting them trade up for Xavier Worthy, right? Like this has been all year. It's just. Yeah, well, okay. Are they trying to get free tickets to Taylor Swift concerts? Because those are
exactly. That's like
that's one way to get in.
How do we get tickets to these? Like they're so expensive, and we're billionaires, but we can't afford this kind of tickets.
Here's the fastest wide receiver to ever run the combine. There you go, Chiefs.
There's a lot of people that work for our organization too, and they have daughters who look up to Taylor Swift. We need them at these concerts. Who do you want from our team? What can we do? And
I don't know, man. Like, I get it, and they're it's funny that their offense really isn't that great. It's their defense holding it together right now. I did not realize, like, I knew that the Ravens defense had not been like up to Ravens par, like, on par for Ravens defenses. They have allowed the third most points in the AFC, but they have scored the most points by, I would say, quite a large margin, but the Bills are at 230. But after that, there's not a single team over 200.
And they don't turn it over a ton, which is why I noticed one question in the chat asking about Broncos defense. Like, I really don't like that against the Ravens. I think that's the defense to avoid this week.
Yeah. It's pretty nuts.
And I don't really know that the Ravens defense is that strong either against the Broncos because they've been allowing so much that.
Yeah,
I think it's funny that they're asking about Saints or Broncos. I'm pretty sure I dropped the Ravens defense to pick up the Saints to avoid that Broncos Ravens game, which could be a bit of a low-key shootout.
Yeah. So, all right. So I'm going to jump over here and talk about some usage that I was keeping an eye on this one, right? So, we saw the New York Giants when Singletary started out the year and he was fantastic, right? It was like, oh man, I got a steal in the draft. This was awesome. Everybody was, Tyrone Tracy was like the sleeper darling pick, like, oh, he's going to take over. And it was like, I don't know how this is going to happen. It's going to require an injury. Well, the injury happened. And then Tyrone Tracy absolutely crushed. And so the first game back with both of them was week 7. It was an absolute disaster for the Giants. It wasn't like a complete slaughter by the Eagles, but like the Giants could do nothing on offense, right? It was just abysmal. So this past week, I was like, okay. So I wrote about it in the previous week users article. I said, but I need to keep an eye on it because right now it still leans Tracy, but I want to see them in a more competitive game. Well, we got that competitive game on Monday night against the Steelers. Tracy out-snapped Devin Singletary 40-24. Out-carried him, and this is mind-boggling. 20-2. And so, like, this just screams like, oh, Devin Singletary is a drop candidate. Well, be careful because Tyrone Tracy is now in the concussion protocol on a short week. So Devin Singletary may have life for one more week, and maybe he plays out of his mind and gets back into the good graces of the coaches. Who knows? But right now, like, to me, this says Tyrone Tracy is absolutely the guy that the Giants trust and want to give the ball to. I think they realize their season is not going very well, so there's really no reason to give Singletary the ball, even though they paid him to come in and do just that. Tracy's the guy they drafted, not a high draft capital, but, hey, let's see what we got. Let's see if he can do it long term. And he's been proving it. Look, he did it against a very good Steelers defense, too, like 145 yards rushing or something like that. That's insane. And he can catch the ball in the backfield. It's been mentioned many times on this show and other shows I've been on. He was a college receiver who switched over to running back. So we know he can catch the ball, and he's done that a couple of games this year. He caught a ton of passes. I really like Tracy, and I kind of think Singletary might be a drop candidate very, very soon. Just not yet.
Yeah, the concussion week hold for a spot. I know definitely there's a couple leagues where I've got him in the starting lineup right now. Wait and see.
I've got both of these guys in Scott Fish. I drafted Singletary as like my RB 3 or 4 or something like that. Like, because I was going RB heavy, and then like late in the draft, I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna pick up Tracy. Why not? Let's see what happens. Like, at that point, like with 26 rounds or whatever nonsense it is in Scott Fish, like you're just picking whoever, right? And so that's seemingly working out. Like, did the same thing with ETN and Bigsby. Totally working out.
I mean, if you want to like talk Scott Fishbowl strategy, I remember I was tons of running backs early, tons of potential kick returners late, and I think since week 1, I've started Javonte Turpin every week in the Scott Fishbowl lineup because I think that very first week he got like 36 points or something. I saw that. Okay, the punt returning's for real. He's never leaving the lineup, and actually, there's been a couple of other 30-point weeks that I've capitalized. But
I didn't get any. I didn't get any of the, like, I tried to go after receivers who I thought would return kicks, like Downs and Shakir and guys like that. Turns out Shakir might end up being really good the rest of the year. Downs with Flacco could be really good the rest of the year. It's just been kind of rocky with them. So I could get like a really big playoff push if I can actually get in. I'm kind of on the border. Like, my team's been like really good one week and really bad the next. I just can't stay consistent, which kind of goes right in line with how my receivers have performed all year long. So we'll see.
I kind of got lucky that I was able to go. So you said running back heavy with Singletary as your third guy. I think I went Mahomes in the first round. That was a pretty bad pick. But then I think I went 4 straight running backs with Taylor, Gibbs, Henry, and Ken Walker. And it's just
oh my goodness!
It's like,
how?
it seemed like a couple of those guys, like most of those guys, other than Taylor, I think were falling like around past ADP in
oh my god,
draft.
that's insane.
People went a little crazier for the tight ends and certain receivers, and quarterbacks went pretty crazy too. It was actually got my only Caleb Williams share in Scott Fishbowl, and I regretted benching Mahomes last week. Mahomes was actually the better start last week.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, still doing pretty good. 10-6.
I ended up getting Jalen Hurts. I had the 1-2. I ended up getting Jalen Hurts. Came back around, and I was like, you know what? I got to beat 3,000 other people. Jaden Daniels. Woo, baby. Yeah, that's working out.
I've got a salary cap contract. The rest of my team is not. With that duo at quarterback, and that's been the best part of the team so far.
Pretty nice, yeah. So, all right. Kyle, what is your second one here?
I guess we talked about like Dolphins allowing 0 touchdowns inside the 5 this year. On the opposite end of the spectrum, I mean, you've already touched on it a few times, and that's why the Broncos are so highly ranked in the goal line grade this week. The Ravens have allowed 100% touchdown rate inside their own 5-yard line on pass attempts. They've had four pass attempts against them, and all 4 have been touchdowns. So it's like the opposite end of the spectrum of the Dolphins in that regard. And it's, pushing up some teams' goal line grades. It's got to the point there were still a couple of 100%, I think even last week, and it's whittled down to just them and the Chargers. The Chargers have allowed 100% touchdown rate inside the 5 on the ground. So that's
interesting.
So maybe this with
teams just have to get there on him is the problem.
With the Browns playing them, is this the Nick Chubb breakout week potentially? I mean, he's come on slowly. It's tough to really trust him, and I didn't rank him super highly.
It really is.
That still around. I think I've had him right around RB30 all 3 weeks he's played, and I think the touchdown, the week 1 kind of saved him finishing around there. But
yes, it did. Yeah.
But maybe for future reference, like running backs against the Chargers, that might be somewhere to pick against, but certainly quarterbacks, pass catchers against the Ravens seems to be something to target pretty heavily through the rest of the year. So little observation. I think, again, Joe, you've touched on it too about the Ravens defense. So.
Yeah.
I'll leave it there if there's another observation there.
No, that's good. AJ, you got anything else?
Just kind of what we were touching on earlier, how like we've talked about it before, how we've had this kind of shift back to the traditional fantasy where running backs are really more valuable and
stubborn old school ways are coming back. Everything comes back in style,
exactly.
Right?
Everything's cyclical. So, but the receivers, like, there really is such a drop off now, and we were talking about it earlier that we're both trying to trade running backs to somebody, like anybody, to just get a body in a receiver slot that's startable, and no one's really biting. And I don't know. I mean, maybe I need to start throwing trade offers out and try to like gauge interest or whatever, but like in Crab Cake, I have so many running backs that are just quality running backs. No one's really like breakaway amazing, but they're all very startable guys. And I'm filling my 2 running back slots, my 2 flex spots, but I need help at a receiver. And just the receiver game in general, I feel like is down. I don't know if it's like, are we at the point where PPR has kind of run its course already? Do we need to throw something else in to make receivers even more valuable? And by that I mean
I don't know about that.
Well, by that I mean like the also ran receiver, like Noah Brown. Last week was like his week, because he randomly caught that last second touchdown in the end zone. And it's like, okay, well, had I started him, I would have been better off than starting whoever. But you're looking at like, the waiver wire this week, Parker Washington for Jags. They lost everybody. It's like just injuries in general are really creeping up and hurting these receivers. I feel like more than the running backs, the tight ends. I mean, tight ends been at that zone all year. We've already talked about that ad nauseum, but Xavier Hutchinson for Houston is like the guy. Everybody's going out and spending all kinds of fab dollars on this guy, and he's sucked. Like Tank Dell,
and he literally might have one like semi-relevant week. Like
exactly. You know,
I thought about that as I put it. My initial fab was like, oh, I gotta go get my guy. I put in all these high bids, and I'm like,
exactly.
And then I lowered him, and I didn't get him anywhere. And I'm like, I'm not even sad about
it. Yeah, like I randomly grabbed him in one of my leagues on my fantasy league. That was just like, why didn't anybody put in a claim on this guy? Like, how is this even possible? He's still sitting here. Okay, I'll take him for free, and I'll drop Tutu Atwell, who doesn't matter now that
he's not.
Cooper Kupp are back, and now that Demarcus Robinson randomly had a presence last week, even though the other two guys were back.
He's good as the wide receiver 3 on that team. Let's just put it.
Oh, he is.
Like, all the games we wanted to start him when those guys were out, he wasn't doing anything.
No, he sucked. He was absolute garbage. And Tutu Atwell was like, hey, all right, here I am.
Not a receiver 1 at all. So.
But it's
I feel like it's funny. Like you mentioned that crab cake league, AJ. Like I'm looking at my team and like I went because it is a full PPR, so I went. Mm-hmm. I went a little bit running back heavier than I thought I would because Kamara fell to me at 4.9. And in a PPR league, Kamara, like, as much as I don't really like Kamara as like even in a half PPR league, in a PPR league, you're like, well, he's going to catch like 80 passes, it feels like. Yeah. So, like, it's gold, right? So, but like, I'm looking at it and, you know, I went a little bit more running back heavy than I thought. And, of course, right now I'm missing Evan, so that hurts. But like my third receiver has been just every week is somebody different. You know, I've had Mooney in there, I've had Keenan Allen in there. I don't even know who else is on my team right now in there. Like it's just sort of all over the place. Let's see here. I've got Elijah Moore now.
Yeah. Like he was,
of course. I drafted Hollywood Brown, and then he gets hurt. You know, done for the year. I mean, so that kind of burned. That was sort of like my sleeper like receiver that I was really banking on. That hurt. But
I was planting the flag that he was going to be the Chiefs wide receiver.
Oh, dude, I was all over. Scott Fish was another one of those too. So like my first receiver is Scott Fish. I believe was my first receiver is Scott Fish. I believe. Was Waddle, who hasn't really done anything. Then I come around to my second one, rounds later, was Hollywood Brown. Yeah. And then I just started like taking shots on a whole bunch of dudes, and some of them have kind of worked out, but that crushed me. Waddle being, you know, sucky is AJ's favorite term here, because Tua goes out, and then Hollywood gets, you know, hurt for the whole year. That was a dagger. So I've been kind of playing catch up. I've been playing. I mean, we have like six flex.
Yeah.
All of my flex have been running backs almost every single week.
Yeah.
So there it goes. But yeah, I feel like AJ, like it is weird, like to think that, you know, I have Kyron Williams, Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, you know, Algier. I had, you know, I lucked into Jordan Mason, which may not be a thing for much longer, but there's been a bunch of dudes that have been very reliable. More running backs have felt like they've been more, you know, been reliable than receivers this year.
Yeah.
So
they really have been.
It will be very interesting to see how drafts sort of, because it feels like in drafts every single year we overreact to the year before. Like 2 years ago, it was quarterbacks. Everybody's like, "Oh, you got to go get your Coy," and then it was like, "Oh, wait, I'm blanking on the Washington football team guy who
Joe Flacco.
No, Joe Flacco. No, Sam Howell, yeah, like Sam
Yes.
Howell was a thing for a while. Like all these dudes were just like streamable quarterbacks.
Stroud
So
was pretty late in drafts.
he was. But like there was just a bunch of, and it's happening again that you like nobody drafted Sam Darnold, nobody, right? Like nobody wanted him.
No.
Everybody's like, oh boy, here we go, and that's why Justin Jefferson fell. Justin Jefferson fell to me at like pick 8 in a couple of leagues, and I'm like, I'll take a stab. Like he can't be that bad. He was good with crappy quarterbacks last year. Darnold's better than these guys. So like it will be interesting. And then like this year, and I fell into this trap. It was there's a billion tight ends that are all going to be good, but you have to get one of the top 10. And so they all started creeping up draft boards, right? And I was going after her. And thankfully I fell into like the Njoku who's going to work out. But like, man, I got Cade in one. That's not really working out. Ferguson on another. Kind of Andrews in a couple. That's been awful outside of the last couple of weeks. But I haven't started him because the volume's not there. So it'll be really interesting to see next year kind of how the market fluctuates to this season. And because, yeah, I mean, I just feel like we overreact to a bunch of things. I feel like I don't really have a whole lot of, because we've talked about a lot of the stuff that I would have mentioned. I would have mentioned like Tampa Bay, but we had that in like the start sit stuff.
Yeah.
I guess the only one that we didn't really talk about was like the Jags. It's like, who's going to be the guy there while all of these receivers are hurt? Like usually in the usage article, I put all the stats. So if you guys have not seen this, I shared the screenshot of your article, Kyle. But if you guys have not seen this article, every week I do this. Let me see if I can pull it up. Here we go. So every week I have this article. We got to move the stuff here. Here we go. And so usually I put like the stat lines from the week before. And so it's snap count for receivers. It's snap count, it's routes run, targets, and then end zone targets. Right. And so, very actionable data, like stuff that you can kind of look at and say, okay. And then I start talking about like the trends, right? For the Jaguars, I literally did not do it because none of the guys that played last week are going to play this week outside of Ingram, right? Like, okay, yes, we had Parker Washington play. We had some of these other guys play, but it's like there's just not enough data there for them to like matter. So it's all kind of guesswork here. So really, I think what it comes down to is Brian Thomas Jr. was supposed to miss 2 to 4 weeks. He's being called day to day. I don't know what's happening there. Like for me, it's Ingram or bust. Parker Washington is a super like dart throw. Like you've got to be a bye week complete hell in order to start him. I just don't want anything to do with this receiving core this week outside of Ingram, honestly. And then when Brian Thomas comes back, like could he legit be starting to be talked about in wide receiver 1 territory? Like I don't think I'll ever really put him in wide receiver 1 unless he performs that well. But man, he's been good.
He's been so good though.
And now that he's the only guy, you kind of just worry though if the coverages are going to go too far his way because there really isn't anybody else. That's the one worry. But I think Brian Thomas Jr. if he's gonna be super good the rest of the way once he comes back on the field. But all right, man. Kyle, I know you went off camera here, but I know this show was pretty long. Thank you for sticking around though. This was a good time, and we'll have to do it again soon. But before you go, for sure, let everybody know what else you got going on this year and where they can find you. Oh, there we go.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I caught the end of that. Oh, so that's for me. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Yes.
Well, I've got the goal line guide article at Fantasy Six Pack.
Yep.
That's written every week, so just check that out and all the other great content from Fantasy Six Pack. Yeah, we're in the hat going for 2 live. I host the Sunday morning stream. I also host the Monday pregame show stream. So there's in addition to the things I do with Going for 2 Live, there's a show almost every night of the week on the Going for 2 Live network. So subscribe on YouTube. I've also got a couple podcasts with full press coverage. The full press coverage website, that's where you can find my weekly rankings. I've got the full press fantasy pod, full press Packers pod, fantasy football pod. It's typically like this. We'll do rankings, debates, kind of like you guys do. And then we'll talk other NFL trends. There's a lot of trade talk recently, whether it's been dynasty trades, real NFL trades, and trying to track the first week it happened. Okay, well, what do we think is going to happen with the Bills now, or the Jets, or the teams they left, the Raiders and the Browns? Like what comes of that? And then now we've had a couple weeks of data, so to look back on that. So the NFL always gives us great topics to just ramble about it, aside from the prescribed topic of the episode. It's a greatest soap opera. Love covering it. Really loved coming on the show and sharing with you guys. Joe, AJ, great, and Mike, producer extraordinaire. Thanks for setting everything up.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate
Don't inflate it. Don't inflate his ego too much. Mike already. No. Don't worry, Mike. We'll put you back in your place. No, I'm kidding.
Don't worry. You can't see my head inflating behind camera.
Sure, we can. That's
look out the window.
It's a family show, Mike. Keep it in your pants.
This has went over 2 hours, so it is now officially Fantasy Six Pack After Dark.
Oh yeah.
So we are done. So all right, Kyle, thank you again, man. We'll have to do it again soon. This was a great time. Have a good luck in week 9.
Yeah, thank you. Wow, already there.
Yeah.
All
right. Thanks, Kyle. Have a good night.
Cool. All right. So that's it for us. If you've stuck around this whole time, this was a great show. There was a lot of questions in the YouTube comments, so that definitely made things go a little bit longer. But glad for everybody to be there. But guys, if I know it's hard for us to get to everything, jump in our Discord, guys. And unfortunately, we don't get to answer everything. We do make sure we answer everything for our members, so that's where that premium membership comes into play. If you liked all this show and some of our other shows and all this content you're seeing, jump in to the Discord, become an all access member, use that promo code F6P NFL 24 to save 15%. And we'll answer everything over on the Discord. But there is limited time on the shows and on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. So we want to help you, but that's how it's done. So without further ado, man, AJ, I'm done. Any last words?
No, go Birds. Dougie P coming back to Philly. Be interesting this weekend. But Birds are going to keep it locked down.
All right. See ya.